one of the things that I try to, make sure to try to get across is how in this circulation that we have, in the circulation from the heart, one of the things that we have to remember, we have our pulmonary circuit. Does everybody remember that? And once again, we are enclosed systems. And then we have our systemic circuit, which for the most part is the one, these two circuits, the one for the pulmonary and the one for the systemic, that tends to be what we're most familiar with. So, as we go back, let's take a quick peek at some of the, basically some of the stuff that's going on. So, one of the things that I want to go back to for just a second is going to be this particular slide right here. And this is going to be something you definitely have to know, all right? You're going to need to know the flow of blood through the heart. So just a couple of reminders. Blood, now, one of the things I should probably point out, the blood that returns to the heart, it returns from our systemic circuit and our coronary circuit to the right side. So on the right side of the heart, blood returns from the systemic circuit and the coronary circuit. On the left side of the heart, blood returns from the pulmonary circuit. Okay, so just once again, want to kind of point that out. So if we look at this picture right here, the way that they are showing this diagram, they're starting out with the blood returning to my right side. So this is my atria on the right. It has to go from the atria to the ventricle, and then from the right side, it goes into my pulmonary trunk. Once the blood comes from the pulmonary circuit to the left atria, goes to the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, they're trying to show the little pathway for the arteries. It goes into the aorta for my systemic circuit. So just once again, kind of looking back at this circulation of the blood in the heart. The other part that we looked at this coronary circulation. The reason that I want us to take a peek back to the coronary circulation. Remember, coronary circulation is for the blood supply to the heart as an organ itself. If we don't have that blood supply to the organ itself, okay, remember, this will kill tissue, and when that happens, we end up with something physically occurring, i.e., a heart attack, okay? So what I did, I asked Brian to hand around the models that we have, because now that we have looked at this anatomy, let's just kind of review real quick, okay, before we move on. Anterior, posterior, sits in the mediastinum. Apex points a little to the left, okay? These are termed my great vessels. One of the things that we want to remember, any vessel that takes blood away from the heart is an artery. Anything that brings blood back to the heart is a vein. When we look at circulation for my coronary, feeding the organ itself, don't forget that this coronary circulation, they're sitting in sulci. Does everybody remember that? The grooves of the heart, and the arteries and the veins, for the most part, are following similar pathways. Okay, does everybody remember that? And then one of the things about the return of the coronary circulation, we have a huge area on the posterior side. You guys remember the coronary return, this huge, great cardiac vein, okay, for the return to the heart. So, part that we had left off on Tuesday, because we had looked at the coronary circulation based on the arteries and the veins, and one of the things we had begun to look at was our cardiac muscle itself. Just a reminder, the three muscle types in the body: skeletal, smooth, cardiac. And when you look, and everybody just kind of take your hearts, okay? Take that little top off of it, and note the majority of my cardiomyocytes, which was the cardiac cell, is found in the ventricles, with the majority found around the left ventricle. Did we mention why that was the case? Brian's shaking his head, yeah. Marlisha's, yeah. Well, okay, can you guys tell me why the majority of it is found around the left ventricle?
So it can pump blood to the other parts of the body.
Because that has to go to all the systems, meaning all the rest of the body. The right only has to pump it to the lungs, not very far. So it doesn't have a huge amount of the muscle surrounding it. So we kind of left off at the structure of these. One of the biggest ones, our electrical junctions, or the gap junctions. Because once again, this is going to be muscle tissue. Therefore, we are going to be dependent on the movement of chemicals, i.e., my electrolytes. Everybody remember those, all right? In the structure of the heart cells, because they do interdigitate, they do have those intercalated discs where the interdigitating occurs, and because they have structures that will hold in this interdigitation one cell to the next, but another part about it is they've got really a huge number of gap junctions. The reason for this, when we talk about a heartbeat, A heartbeat, a cardiac cycle, okay, is going to be one contraction, one relaxation, and the pace is going to be set by something called the SA node. All right? Remember, the heart, the structure of the heart, it is innervated, but does not depend on a nerve impulse to function. Do you remember how with skeletal muscle, the structure that we had, where we had that skeletal muscle fiber and a nerve came to a point where we had the neuromuscular junction? Does everybody remember that? And then the exchange of materials caused the muscle to start its, contraction. Think of it this way. That was an external force. It was a matter of that nerve meeting the muscle. The heart is intrinsic. The SA node, those specialized cells, are inside the heart. They may have innervation, but it's not dependent, okay? The SA node fires itself. So roughly, based on a normal heartbeat, and that ranges, okay? It ranges depending on the person's age, physical condition. There's so many factors. But they tell us the norm is about 75 beats per minute. So that means that this area, does everybody see it up here in this slide? They're trying to show us how we're going to have an area that is specialized tissue, and that's going to be our SA node. It's not really being represented in
It's not in there either.
Yeah, they're not really representing it in our models that we have.
It's not this, like this flat disc in here, is it?
I don't think so, but that could be what they're trying to use to represent it.
Take a Sharpie and draw.
Yeah, I'll have to draw it and say no. So think of it now. First of all, what
I think they're talking about that.
what chamber is this located in?
Right.
My right atria. So this SA node that is going to set the pace of the heartbeat is in the right atria. So what we end up calling a heartbeat based on this SA node, we say this is our cardiac conduction system. This internal pacemaker, it does, when it fires, act in a nerve-like fashion. That means when the node fires, it sends signals. Now, what do you kind of note about the arrows coming from that SA node?
They're pointed down.
I've got some that are pointed down
And some going across.
and some going across. So in a nerve-like